Okay.
Accent.
Hello, this is Pauline.
Okay, I've unmuted myself. Good evening, everyone. It looks like others are muted, and that would be a good thing as we go through, so that we don't have background noise or competing noise as it goes through. I guess we're going to need to do a roll call. Gail, can you see who's logged in?
No,
can see
I
there's
don't
18 participants.
I don't have video. I just have audio. So I just have to read everybody's name and tell me yes or no if they're there. Okay.
Well, hold on a minute. Everybody's going to have to be unmuted then. Can everyone unmute your mics temporarily?
All they need to do is hold down their space bar on their keyboard, and it will do it for them. Then they can release it to go back to mute.
Oh, super.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Anna Eddie,
Here.
Okay,
Laurel,
Oh, come back.
is Laurel there?
I thought she was.
She is.
She is there. Judy, is Judy there?
Judy was on the
Judy just
phone,
sent,
yes.
yeah, Judy sent me a note. She's muted.
Okay. Pauline,
Here.
Iris, I know is absent. Maureen,
Here.
LeeAnn,
Here.
Pam,
Here.
Gail, Neil, I heard. Diane,
Here.
I heard. Lisa Jones,
Here.
She's there.
Christine,
Here.
Gail. Yep.
I was just told to do *6. This is Judy.
Okay.
So I'm now unmuted.
Okay. Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Lisa, I heard Lisa Masten, and I heard Karen Benner. Dave Daigle,
Here.
Chris Miner,
Here.
and from the Friends, is just Sheila there, or anybody else? Anyone from the Friends?
I'm checking for you. Hold on.
Doesn't
Thank you.
look like it.
We do have a phone number on the attendee side that I don't recognize. It ends in 837. That could be her. Sheila, if you're on
Can
the
we unmute?
attendee side, try raising your hand with *9. No, I'm not getting a response on that side.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody's there from the Friends, but maybe when it's the Friends report, we'll find out if they're there or not. So we're all set. So go ahead, Diane.
Great, thank you, Gail. Good evening, everyone. Here we are again in our Zoom meetings. We're getting better at this. I guess I'll go right into public participation. So if that person with the phone number ending with 837 participation, if you'd like to speak now. And if you're not public participation, it would be good to know that too. Anyone on the 837 number?
If you like, I can unmute them. We can determine who they are. If they're
Okay, I'm not getting a response there. I'll ask everyone else to make sure their phones are muted except for when they're speaking.
okay. 837 is
If you
live.
would, that would be good. Hi, who dialed in from a phone number 860 ending in 837? Anyone from the board dial in on the phone besides Judy?
I'm on the phone.
Who's this?
And who is that, please?
Pauline, I'm having problems. I have a new computer and I haven't figured out
Okay,
the audio.
okay, so you're 837, so you're not public participation. So thank you for speaking up. We can put you on mute again, or you can mute yourself as we go through that. So I would say that there is no public participation at this point, and I'll move on to Town Council Liaison, Dave Nagel.
Yeah, a couple of things related, kind of unrelated. First of all, the voting box for future, prior voting for those who wish to put their ballots in has been moved up Garfield Street somewhat so that it's in front of the east entrance to Town Hall. That's where Parks and Rec entrance is. It's out by the curb. So anyone in the library doesn't know that, or anyone else, please say it is there. It's out in the open and people are obviously welcome to use it. Also, we're getting closer to, council's getting closer to being told that our facilities survey is going to be done, possibly by our next our next council meeting. We've all been eagerly waiting to see that and hearing about various facilities. I know you're curious in terms of what an outside person group thinks in terms of the library, how desperately the needs are, which of course we know. I guess that's basically it, unless you have some questions. There are other things happening, but those are two things that are kind of related to the library.
Dave?
Yes.
Dave, one question. You mentioned, I think, the consulting firm that's conducting the evaluation of the town facilities.
Yes.
The firm that the town council was interviewing last October, I believe it was.
Yes.
And you hired them. Okay. I was just curious,
Yes.
what's their name? The name of the firm?
Oh, I've drawn a blank right now. Perhaps Chris Minor knows.
Okay.
It's Owens Realty, ORNL.
Okay, that
Chris.
sounds right. Okay. Good enough.
Dave,
Yes.
this is Maureen.
Hi, Maureen.
Apparently you didn't read my email I had sent to facilities and site
No, I had
report.
just, I've been having problems with the computer and I just
Okay.
saw it before
Well,
this meeting, so.
I spoke with Keith and he said that report was just a draft, was just received. Because I called him about library expansion. All he said was that it's 5,000 pages.
Yeah, well,
So
we
Have
get it.
fun.
And who
have
knows what it
fun.
is. At least it's a step closer to finding out. We weren't privy to how condensed it would be and so on, but it's a step
And
closer.
he did call it a draft report.
I'm condensed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
You know more than I do.
well,
Well, it depends on who spoke to who last.
yeah,
That's
Thank
true.
you, Dave. And
I'm sure it's not a secret.
Chris, do you have
No.
anything else? Chris Minor, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Now, Cindy, outside the fact that was
Okay, I'm
received today.
hearing, thank you, I'm hearing nothing. Secretary's report, Iris is not, okay, super. We'll move on to Secretary's report. Iris Larson, she is out tonight. I don't believe there's anything to report on that end. She did not give me anything to report on when she notified me that she would be out this evening. So from there, we'll move on to approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from last month's meeting? And this would be the regular business meeting. Anyone have comments or changes?
I make a motion. This is LeeAnn. I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Laurel, second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Neil, was that a delayed agreement or a delayed
I had to unmute
opposed?
myself. Aye, now I say.
Okay, so I'm going to take that as an agreement. Anyone in absentia? Okay, motion carries to accept the minutes as written by unanimous vote. Thank you. All right, review of the annual activities calendar. That has certainly changed in light of everything that's going on. But in October, we do the, I'm sorry, I'm hearing some feedback from folks. I don't know if you can mute yourselves. Maybe it's feedback from me if nobody else is hearing it. For October, this is usually the time that we set the date or remind folks of the date of our annual 5K race. So if the pandemic is under control, we would normally look to have that race Sunday after Mother's Day, which would be May 15th. And so that would be Sunday, May 16th, 21. We usually also talk about Hainel concerts, but for now, planning or actually setting up concerts for Hainel is on hold. I sent out the activities committee report to folks. And as I said in the email, everyone was assigned to the groups that they had asked for. Lisa Jones is now the chair for communications. And Pauline, I put you over in communications because we were a little late there. And I think that that's one of the areas that we can use some help. And I know you've stepped up in the past. But as you go through that with chairpersons are pretty much the same. Nobody had asked for much different. So might be interesting to try to shake some things up. But I think this year, depending on what happens with the pandemic, we may be concentrating on some different items. As I had mentioned, we might be looking at some alternatives for fundraising if, again, we think that the 5K race is in danger of being canceled or significantly postponed. I think communications is very important to get out, especially with opening, closings, different hours, different services being available for walk-ins. Things like that are all very important. And as we said, we are still talking about the library's needs for expansion and space as it goes through here. So not quite sure what we're going to see in the 5,000 page report. I know that there are a lot of buildings in town that are in need of or reaching for funds. So we're not quite sure where that's going to end up. So I think some of the committees, facility and site, communications, fund development, those will all be areas that we'll be looking to have some assistance from folks as we move forward. So I would encourage you not to be shy, to raise your hand, even if you're not officially on a committee. If those are the ones that are active, it would be great if you could lend your assistance to those areas.
Diane?
So that, yes.
I think in a 5,000 page report,
Go ahead, Neil.
I think in a 5,000 page report, we can find pretty much anything we want, you know? That's what I think. That many pages, we can find a lot of stuff. Good, bad, you know. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, that's the evaluation of the all the town buildings is my
I know,
understanding.
I realize. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. So that's the activities calendar and the committee assignments as it goes through. Does anybody have any questions from what you might have seen or read on those reports? No? All right, then I will move on to the treasurer's report. LeeAnn Manke. Unmute.
Sorry about that. Had to unmute myself and not just hold the button because I have to read. I can't do all that at the same time. Well, first of all, I did include for your reference because we did not have a meeting during the summer and I did not report on this in our September meeting as we were abbreviated. You have a June 30th report, which is our fiscal year end. That's where we stood. We were at $13,441.05. The September 30th, with a various breakdown, if people have questions, I will answer it. But I will tell you that activity since the pandemic happened, with programs being cut back and other assorted things, our spending has been down, but also our income has been down. Going through the summer, we were July and August, the beginning of the fiscal year, we had more costs than money coming in. We had a lot of the insurance bills. I have one more to pay coming up, and I'll be truthful that the end of August, I was getting a little nervous because the race is our income. But between the Ready, Set, Go and other people from the community who've contributed, September was a banner month for us. We really did very well, and I'm very pleased because it puts us in a much more comfortable place going forward into the unknown. So I don't want to say we're great, but we're a whole lot better than I thought we were going to be a month ago. So that's really where we're at. I have all the breakdowns here. We had one of the things that happened was over the summer, all but 2 of the sponsors who pledged for the race came through for us, which is, really phenomenal. They really kept their promise for us. And the community, as I said, stepped up for the Ready, Set, Go. We had a large contributor make a contribution to the library. We have a lot of people who care about us. We did get the rental back. That was one of the questions at the beginning of the summer from the town for the race. So that's back in our coffers. And the race timing company had their $700 deposit, which they've now transferred to next year. So we got that already basically paid for. So that's nice to have in the coffers too. We did have one of the things you might have a question about is you will see gifts to the library. One of the things that the Friends utilized our credit card through Lisa to make purchases for gifts to the library. They made a contribution to us to cover those costs, and then they in turn are reflected in our books as gifts to the library and a donation being received. That's how I have to cover it. But basically that large amount you see in there, it was not a big planned item, not like in June where you see where we paid all the children's department off. That was our, we had decided to do that with last year's race money. So at the ending balance at the end of September, we were at $17,710.65. One other contribution that I want to specifically mention is the Friends again stepped up and paid basically the annual subscription for the Sprint Wi-Fi hotspots. So we have that to pay for the subscriptions as they go forward. So that's a nice gift to us too. And then in turn, we can gift it to the library. As you can see, our earnings report at the end, I know Neil has given you an analysis of our investment accounts. The smaller accounts are earning next to nothing in terms of interest, but that's everywhere. I will say that I haven't been able to close out Ready, Set, Go yet. I'm still waiting one more online check. But as I said, that was very successful. We are pretty much, since the update that I gave you as of the 14th, I have done one more premium policy for the 2-year policy for the crimes bonding policy, which is September 4th, and the premium is due in November. It's a 2-year policy that commenced 9/4 through the 2022. And we're paying on an annual basis. So that's another $500 and something that will come out. So between some various expenses paid and whatever, the balance as of today is $21,506.78. The largest expense that I anticipate in the next 2 months is we will have the accountant's bill. And that's about it.
Thank you, LeeAnn. Does anyone have questions for LeeAnn? Nope. Great. Thank you, LeeAnn. I know that's a lot of accounting, and it sounds like our patrons and the folks of Newington and beyond really stepped up to help us out when our traditional fundraiser was canceled. So it's always nice to see the cold hard backing that we get from our patrons. So it is nice that that came through. Library Director's Report, Lisa Masten. Lisa, are you muted?
There, is that better? Sorry.
That's much better.
Okay. So I just wanted to let you know first that this Saturday, our hours are going to be a little different. The Humane Society is having a road race that's going to affect our ability to get access to Garfield and also our parking lot. So we decided to open from 1 to 5 on Saturday. So we'll be offering curbside service 1:30 to 4:30 so that patrons can get in and get their stuff and leave without any kind of problem. So we were not aware of the race until recently. So I just thought that would be easier for everyone involved. The other big news is we have new carpet upstairs. It looks great in the children's room. We got the funding for that through the CIP projects last year, and it's actually a 2-phase project. First phase is the children's department and the community room, and then the second phase next year is the downstairs. But it looks really, really nice. That carpet was almost 30 years old, and it was really stained and really unsightly. So it just looks wonderful up there. And with the area that was refurbished from the race money last year, it just looks really nice. I'll send out pictures. We wanted to have it done completely so you can get the full effect. And we're just about there. So I'll send one out hopefully by the end of the week so you can see how nice it looks. And then
it stayed clean for months.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
right.
it stayed clean for months. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that we are going to be reopening for in-person browsing next Monday, the 26th. And as of today, people could call in and it's browsing by appointment. So they get 30 minutes to come in and browse and check out, get their books checked out and then leave. And so we're going to start that next week. And so people could start calling today if they wanted to make appointments. We are accepting walk-ins if we have space. So they don't have to call in advance. They could also call the day of and see if we have openings and just book a time. But that's the way we're going to start to let people back in. So when we do it, it's going to be, let's see, Monday and Wednesday, we're going to have curbside service 10 to 1, and then we're going to have browsing from 2:30 to 6:30. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll have browsing from 10 to 1 and curbside. Curbside would be 2:30 to 6 Thursday, 2:30 to 6:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Friday, we have, Karen, help me out. Friday is browsing 10 to 1 and curbside 2:30 to 4:30. So we're trying to go opposite. We're not going to do both at the same time initially because we're not sure how much curbside will drop off at all. And we just don't have the staffing in the room to do both, honestly, at this time. So that's kind of the plan. And then we're going to have curbside and browsing available on Saturdays as well. So we've got all our plexiglass in place. I will say that thank God I have my husband. I think he probably put about 8 hours in getting the plexiglass up in the library because you had to put all the pieces together. We actually got tempered glass for most of the library, not plexiglass, because it will last longer and it won't scratch and yellow and stuff. But we have all the service desks covered now, and we've done everything we removed all the seating. And we have signs up where, just to make people aware that they have masks on and things like that. And we're almost ready to roll. So that's what we're going to start doing on Monday. And I don't know, eventually we might be able to not have to do browsing by appointment where people can just come in. It's just hard to say how many people are going to, want to come in right away, or if at all, with the way everything is going. I will say one of my biggest concerns, and I did have a discussion with the town manager today, is the lack of parking. This morning, there was no parking at 10. So I'm nervous about making appointments for people that won't have a place to park, but we're working together to try to come up with some solutions. But we're excited. Patrons are excited. A lot of patrons are still happy with curbside, though. They loved it, and some of them are going to just stay with it. But some people really want to get in and look at the books and feel the books. So we're all set for them. And I think that's really all I have to talk about today. The only other thing is in November, we are going to be doing some different kind of hours on one day, because Human Services has their food pickup for Thanksgiving, and we're working with them to have a better flow of traffic. So I think that day we're going to have an early curbside pickup, so people can come really early, well, early for us, like 8 or 8:30, and then we're going to have a late night browsing that night. We'll be open a little bit later, so they can come after it finishes at 5. So we'll have browsing maybe 5 to 7:30 or something like that night for them. So,
Lisa, this is Maureen.
yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
How are you going to sanitize after browsing?
Well, I think we can't sanitize after everyone leaves. I think what we're going to do is, we were talking about this today, all the staff will have masks on, and we'll be socially distancing from our patrons. We're not going to be standing up next to them like we have in the past, but we have a cleaning service that comes at night. We're going to wash the high traffic areas, like the counters and stuff in certain areas ourselves, but it's not going to be have somebody come in during the day and clean. We just don't have that. So, and I think that, that people are, we're quarantining books, and we'll continue to do that, but we're doing the best we can. We don't have a janitor that can come in and do cleaning during the day. So we'll do as much as we can, but there are going to be certain areas that aren't going to be hit because of that.
Lisa, this is Laurel. I'd like to ask a question. Since you're quarantining the books when they're returned by the patrons, what's the difference with patrons going into the stacks and touching the books?
What do you mean exactly? I'm not sure. Or you mean if they touch them, we're going to quarantine those books as well?
I just wondered how libraries are handling that, because
they're basically letting people in, and it's kind of like.
So have they given up quarantining the returns, or is
no, because part of the thing is with the returns is we're handling those books too. And I think staff, when they check out books, are going to have gloves on, but the books will still be quarantined, because that's really what you're supposed to do. But I think if people come in and want to browse, some of it's at their own risk. I mean, if we're handling the books, personally, I would have my gloves on if I were checking out books from somebody that pulled stuff off the shelf. But I think most libraries, you can't wash down every single book that's touched.
Oh, no, I didn't expect that. I was just wondering then if you gave up quarantining the returns.
No, they're not suggesting you do that. But I think most libraries are just letting people in. And, if someone touches a book and puts it back on the shelf, there's a good shot that if it's not a popular book, it's going to be on there at least 3 days. The popular books would be the ones that might be touched a lot more often. But, we're going to also, I know we had talked about, if people touch books, you can have them put them down and we'll shelve them for them. And then if they do that, you could put the cart away for 3 days. But it's going to be, we can't follow everyone, nor do we want to follow everyone. So, yeah.
I know that Berlin at one point had in the stacks, like if you touched a book and then you decided you didn't want it, there was a bin to put it in. But I think they abandoned that.
Yeah. This is Diane. I think it makes sense when a book has left the library and it's been in somebody's home around one or more people in their atmosphere, it's more likely to pick up contaminants that way. If you take a book down and put it back in, it's kind of the same as if you're in the grocery store and you take a box of cereal and, push it to the side and do whatever. It's a limited time. So again, it's the kind of thing where you need to be careful and you need to know what your own risk reward is for coming in and browsing in person. But I think it is a good idea to continue to quarantine things that come back to the library from the outside, because you don't, that's the exposure to, or the possible exposure to somebody who might have the viruses longer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to Laurel's point, most libraries are not, they just are letting people come in and, touch them, if they do, and they go back on the shelf, and that's all you can really do. I mean.
Lisa,
Yep.
just a question. This might sound off the wall, I guess, and you can't mandate anything like this, but is it possible that, you might want to encourage patrons to wear gloves when they come into the library?
You could, I guess, but I guess.
You can't mandate it.
No, the mask you can.
If they wear gloves and they touch their face, it protects, gloves protect the individual person that's wearing the gloves. It doesn't really protect others, because if I'm wearing a glove and then I touch my face,
Okay.
that glove is now the same as my hand.
Sure. Okay.
We do have, the other thing is we do have hand sanitizer when people walk in, and we're going to encourage people to use it. A lot of places you go into, like retail stores, some retail stores, that's what you have to do when you walk in, is put hand sanitizer on. So,
okay.
We'll do the best we can with that too.
Hi, Lisa, this is Chris.
Mm-hmm. Hi,
I
Chris.
noticed in your report on the last page,
Mm-hmm.
it says the cleaning service continues to do a poor job and cleaning is not good. Daily tasks are not getting done. Can you update that? And why has someone else not been hired?
Well, it's not a, having gone through this process several times with cleaning services, we do, the business manager supervises as much as she can the cleaning service. So anytime something doesn't get done, it gets reported to the facilities director, who is now Paul Boutot, and he is working on it. It's not an easy thing where you can just fire somebody, because you have to go through a process to try to give them a chance to improve. And then the other challenge sometimes is when you let a cleaning service go, it's low bid. They might go to the next low bid. And, we've had cases where the next low bid is the one that you fired, previously. So we're working on it, and we are constantly on them. The challenge is we're not in the building when they clean, so we can't see what they're doing until the next day. And I will say it's a lot of work for Lynn to have to stay on top of that stuff, and it's frustrating, but we are reporting it all the time. And, they are aware of it, and they're trying to come up with, a better, maybe come up with a better cleaning service. And, we're going into that time too, because we're going into budget season, and, you have to budget for it. It's not in our budget, it's in the town's budget. But we've had a meeting recently, and they're aware of it, and, Lynn's constantly in touch with them, but it's not like you can just get rid of them that easily either. Plus, whatever is budgeted is what you can pay them. And it is low bid, and sometimes you get what you pay for, honestly.
Diane, this is Pam.
Go ahead, Pam.
Hello. Hi. Dave and Chris, can you correct me if I'm wrong? It is low bid, but we do not necessarily have to take the low bid if the quality is not there. That's at least what I was told when I was on the board. Is that still apply?
As far as I know, I think it is, but I am not certain, especially since we now have a new town manager.
Yeah, well, I remember when Enron was our garbage people, and our new town manager gave me the reason for the garbage coming down the street, that it was low bid. But in speaking with Steve Woods on several occasions, it is low bid to a point. So
Right, of course. But sometimes you won't know until you get the cleaning service for a while,
Right.
how they're going to be.
Right, and then it goes to the next low bid. But maybe, Dave and Chris, you can, just pass on that. We haven't been successful recently, and low bid might not be what we're looking for at this point. It might be more.
Well, and I do think that Paul is aware of that. And, he's
Okay.
also new into his job here. He's inheriting
Yeah.
a lot of these problems. So he is working on it.
I just wanted to.
And Lisa,
to
who
just
else
say
uses
that.
this company, right? It's not just for the library that
It's
they're
the
hired.
senior center, Parks and Rec, and I believe the police department.
Right.
But
I believe you're right.
yeah, I think the 4 of them do. That's all I have,
you.
Diane.
Okay, thank you. Christine, were your questions answered? I can see you shaking your head. All right, thanks. Thank you, everyone. Any other questions for Lisa? No?
Cindy, just real quick, one question.
Go ahead.
Lisa,
ahead.
what did you determine for an occupancy in terms of how many patrons you're going to allow in at one time? I'm just curious to what you'd come up with for a number.
Well, we're looking at like 30 adults and then about 10 children, because we also have to include staff in the numbers. So it's 30 people each half hour.
Okay. And how many staff would you generally have during that period?
Probably, I was thinking probably about 10 to 12 staff in the building. And then the children's area being so much smaller, we're looking at 10 to 12 people and then have the staff included in that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to the Assistant Director's Report. Karen Benner.
Just a few things to mention in personnel news. So Jen Hebert, who is currently our digital services librarian, will be replacing Lynn when she retires on November 13th. Jen is actually training with Lynn as we speak, not as we speak at the moment, but during the next couple of weeks. She started last week. It's a promotional opportunity for Jen, so we're very sad to see Lynn go, but excited to have Jen with us. So Jen's current position is posted right now within the union, and it's going to close on October 21st. And I don't remember if this was mentioned last time, but Sue Schneider, who was the head of circulation and collection management, actually left us. She relocated to Florida. So her position was filled by Dorothy Russell, and Dorothy was the circulation supervisor. That's a promotional opportunity for her as well. Dorothy has started doing some training already. That position is posted and within the union, and that'll close on, I think it's October 20th. So we have some things going on, good things, but we're in flux, and we're trying to allocate our resources as best we can while people move and shift.
That's great news about Jen. I think she'll be good. She's also an MLS,
Any questions
right?
for
She is.
Right, so she'll see that whole picture like Lynn was able to.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and just one other comment. I know Lisa gave a lot of hours and times, but I noticed that was posted on the website. So if this went too quickly for you, you can go out to the website and see the different hours for between curbside and browsing by appointment. I know that was on the website. Any other questions for Karen? Comments? No? Okay, the next is Friends of the Library, but I don't think anyone joined tonight. I'll give it a moment.
I can report for them if you want, Diane.
On there.
I can report for them if you want.
Thank you, Lisa.
So they had
That would be
a
great.
children's grab and go book sale a couple weeks ago, and I think it was October 3rd. And they've actually sold about $700 worth of children's books. And considering that each bag was $5, that was pretty good. I mean, they sold most of them. They sold that day. It was like a 2-hour window. People could just drive up. They gave the reading level they wanted, and then they were given a bag. They bought a bag of books for $5, and the value in the bag was typically $10 or more. But we also have had people buying afterwards as well, which we've encouraged. And on the 31st of October, they're going to have a mystery book sale, and they're going to be doing it outdoors, and people can schedule times to come and browse, and they'll have a limited number of people able to do that per table kind of thing. So that's coming up on the 31st. That's probably about it as to what they've been doing. But they were pleased with that. And I thought that was nice too, that they had such a great response. Grab and go, they were thinking about it for mysteries and other things. That's a tougher one because people are much more specific about what they want to read as they get older. So, but the children's books, people were just appreciative of having, board books and different reading books for different age levels. So that's about it for them.
I have one thing to add. This is LeeAnn.
Great. I think everybody is trying to think out of the box.
Yeah, I had some conversations with Kim, basically because I was involved a little bit with this children's grab and go, and kind of we were picking each other's brains, trying to come up with new and out of the box thinking for fundraising. The one thing, and certainly we have a very good relationship with the Friends, but they are extremely open to our working together. If there's something that we can come up with, some kind of concept that perhaps we can, we're always good about promoting each other's events, but if there's something perhaps that we could do together, we're both trying to come up. I mean, they're used to coming up with book sales that come up with, $10,000, $12,000, and they're going to do it now in increments of $600 and $700, which is great, but that's a lot of work. And, it's kind of like our Ready, Set, Go, a little different kind of thing. So it was nice to hear that, and again, like I said, we've always had a good relationship in that regard, but I just want to encourage our board to think about how we could maybe, if there's a concept that we have that we need a larger workforce or, a better exposure or whatever, let's use each other.
So this is Anna. I attended their Zoom session for their meeting on Wednesday. They were last Wednesday because they were ahead of us on their schedule, and it was well attended. And as LeeAnn just said, they are thinking outside of the box and looking at options to replace the Winterfest if that isn't going to happen. And I lots of kudos because it is a lot of hard work to go into that container and sort out the books to pull out what they need for all these individual book sales. That's it.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for keeping us up to date on the Friends. I do think it's going to be incredibly challenging. If you think of, the doorbuster that the Winterfest had turned into and what a moneymaker that was for the Friends, it's going to be hard for them to find a replacement, much like our race. So again, any thoughts that folks have on fund development, try to bring them up, talk them up, even if it's not exactly that idea that anyone moves forward with, it might engage or lead to other thoughts as we can go through and see things. So I think both the Friends and the board are going to need to put their thinking caps on and see how we can continue to generate some revenue so that we can keep these programs going. All right, next we'll move on to the committee reports for the board. And the first one would be budget with Maureen.
There's no report.
Okay, thank you. And PEP, Laurel?
Yes, we have two items under the PEP report, and I'm going to switch them and talk first about the Chapter 5 of the ACLB Trustees Handbook that was sent out to members of the board. And it's really it was pertinent that Chapter 5 was going out this month because Chapter 5 deals with planning, and that planning is the responsibility of the board. And the other document you got in the mail was the Connecticut Library Best Practices document. This is a self-evaluation guide for libraries to use to see where they're doing well and where they need to improve. And that fits in very well with planning. And the library's strategic plan is now 3 years overdue or out of date. And the best practices document is going to be an excellent guide for us to determine what to put in our new plan for development for the library. And the other big item, of course, will be working on renovation and expansion of the library. So I recommend highly that people look at these documents. The best practices document shows you 3 levels of service. And I met with Lynn and Lisa Masten several months ago when we went through the whole document and compared the library to those standards. That's really what they are, self-standards. And from that, we can see where we need to make improvements. And that fits very well in determining a plan for the future for the library. Also, Lisa put together statistics that were mailed out to you as well that show you what the data is and where the library stands in comparison with what is considered basic, enhanced, and outstanding. So there are 3 levels of performance. And this is what the PEP committee will be working on in the coming year. I'd like to entertain any questions you have about either of those.
Neil, just one question. The summary page of how our library stands in terms of essential, enhanced, exemplary, it looks like we're doing pretty well. I mean,
I think, yes, I think we are.
I mean, we hit the essential in every category, and in some cases with both the essential and the enhanced, a couple of cases with essential, enhanced, exemplary. So it sounds like our practices are pretty good in compared to what the state is looking for. So I think
yes,
tells me that we're doing well.
And I think we can. There are just a couple of items under essential services that we haven't done that we can do easily. So we can quickly, I think, move to enhanced, and there are even some areas in which we're outstanding. Well, so it reflects very well on the library.
And the one where we're restricted under physical space, we meet the essential, but enhanced, exemplary.
Amen.
That ties into the expansion. So yeah, we're doing very well.
Right. So I think it's quite an educational document. Several librarians worked on this, and state library staff to come up with best practices for libraries. The idea was that libraries would evaluate themselves, not that somebody from outside was evaluating the library. So I think that's a good way to approach this document. And I think, as you said, the library does very well. But it is also, reading that gives you an idea of what a good library looks like. So it's a great educational tool for anybody who's gotten on the board and is wondering what the heck is going on or what the library is doing. It shows you what goals we have to achieve.
Great.
It looks like it took a substantial amount of time to pull that together and answer those questions and make the evaluation. So I appreciate Laura, your effort, and Lisa and her team's effort to go through that. It's very helpful for us to see what's going on. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anything
Lisa
else, Laura?
Lisa and Lynn worked hard on
Under
that.
PEPs? No? Any other questions for Laura? All right. Great. Then we know the information's good. Investment Committee, Neil?
Yes. I mailed out our September 30th report via email, I think yesterday. So hopefully you've all had a chance to look at the report. As you can see, September was a bad month for our portfolio. The market itself had a very bad September. So we dropped, we were down about roughly $10,000. As of September 30th, 20, our portfolio balance stands at $685,000. Excuse me, $685,854.58. We're up for the year by about, I don't know, 2.5% or so. But that's not bad considering, what March did to the market. So we're holding on pretty well, really. It's noted by Lisa. $496,361.76 of that are restricted funds. So we're restricted.
Very good.
That's the report, and I'm sticking with it. Any questions?
Thanks, Neil. Does anyone have questions for Neil? No? Thank you, Neil. Appreciate the report and getting that information in people's hands earlier before the meeting. So that's great. Thank you.
Call it a labor
And
of love.
House. Oh, there you go.
A labor of love.
Moving on to House, Laurel Goodgen, we'll come back to you again. House report. You're on mute. Laurel, you're on mute. You're on mute.
There we go.
There you go.
The House Committee will have its annual walkthrough Saturday, October 31st. And because of the pandemic, it has been limited to staff and members of the House Committee. Diane sent out a memo about that. So
I didn't actually send out a memo to everyone.
Oh, excuse me.
Sorry, this is Diane. I just want to clarify that the walkthrough, yeah, I'm sorry, Laurel. It's a very limited walkthrough this time around. It'll be the House Committee Chair, the Facility Site Chair, the President, and then the staff.
Yes, and because of social distancing, that's why it's limited. And this has been a good time each year for people to look at the library and see what needs to be done. But it's, as the library is opening to the public again very soon, that's true for all board members. Whenever you're in the library, if you see something that needs to be done, let me know or Lisa know so we can pursue that, because you need a lot of eyes. It's a building with a lot of detail, and it's been interesting how many small little things make up to making a good impression. So we appreciate all of your observations and suggestions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Laurel. I'm sorry, are there any questions from the group for Laurel? No?
This is Anna. I just want to say it sounds like a prudent thing to do considering we're dealing with the virus. So thank you for thinking ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no other comments, we'll move ahead to Facility and Site with Maureen.
Hi. I don't know if all of you got a chance to read my email with my report. I know Neil commented and Anna responded to me. I had quite a conversation with Keith, and I appreciated his candor. Pretty much what he said was that with the referendum coming up for Anna Reynolds, that if that passes, then we and other places would be put on hold indefinitely. He said the problem is that there just has been absolutely no growth and no development in the town. He apologized, although it wasn't his doing, that we were promised, quote unquote, to be next on the list. And he actually said, unfortunately, that was an empty promise. And seeing, the CIP plan has to really be looked at. He said the economic picture is not rosy. So it doesn't look like we're going to be having any imminent expansion at all. Now, Anna's comment was maybe it's time to explore doing it ourselves. And it's a good comment, and it's certainly open for discussion. That's a big nut. I mean, 3 years ago, the estimate was 15 million. Is that correct, Lisa?
I think so, yeah. I think that's,
so that was 3 years ago. So I don't know, it would be great if we could just sit here and say, gosh, we have the wherewithal to raise 15 million, probably 20. I don't know. I don't know if we can do it. I don't mean to sound.
Maureen,
Diane?
is this the intention is to, do you think that, and perhaps Chris or Dave, you can answer this. We have basically, we have a committee that has done nothing for 2 years. We were established. Will that basically, if this goes forward, will they just, rather than mothball it, will they just cancel it and start over? Or
No, Keith suggested not to mothball it, but not to reactivate it, so to speak. I explained the makeup of the committee to him. It's changed a little because Laurel was representing the town.
Right.
And now she's a board member. So if that committee is reactivated, we'd have to have some personnel changes on it. He suggested that we still talk about it and perhaps meet every 6 months to discuss it, but he is not promoting anything active.
Diane,
Yes, go ahead.
it's Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Several thoughts are swimming around. When we had the other expansion in the mid 80s to late 80s, we also did the senior center at the same time. And everyone in town voted, because it passed, to support both projects. And we had like a sidebar raising of funds, which would be a way of helping us to raise part of the money. The other thing, if we put this on the back burner, it's going to be almost forever. And I definitely think Anna Reynolds has to be done. When I saw the pictures, I was floored. I couldn't believe that students are going to school and under those conditions. I'm afraid to let go of it or to mothball it or to put it on the back burner. And I'd like to see a fundraiser started where we raise money ourselves and also hopefully get something from the town if we can. But
Judy,
we did what?
Part of this hinges on this report by the outside consultants.
Okay.
That 5,000 page report. Nobody really knows what's in it at this juncture.
Okay.
And it's certainly going to have to be given an awful lot of consideration by the council and the town administration. It's not something that's going to be treated lightly. We have no idea where the library is in that report. We could be at the top of the list. We could be at the bottom of the list. We may not be on the list. I don't
Right,
know,
okay.
because
Okay.
every single building was evaluated. Everything you're saying has value. And we can, but certainly we can do our own fundraising.
Mhm.
But when we fundraised in 1986 or 88, whatever year that was, it
Mhm.
was in addition to bonding that was already in place
Right.
and other monies promised.
Mhm.
So, you know, the, again, with no growth in town,
Yep.
and let's be honest, people are very generous in Newington, and people are interested in the library. But Newington is not a wealthy town
Mhm.
in the scheme of things. We are not a Westport. We are not a West Hartford, a Farmington, a Simsbury, and Avon. So, you know, I just don't know where all that money would come from. Some money, but not a whole lot.
Right. I think we're very fortunate that Keith is so supportive.
He is, but his
He-
hands are also tied
He
because he
was
can't.
before. Mm.
There has to be priority, and nothing can be prioritized until that report is examined
Mhm.
and then prioritized. You know, whether it's the consultant that prioritizes, or the town council and the administration, but it's not even in everybody's hands yet. He said they just received the draft.
Okay.
So
Well,
I'm just saying, Keith, you know, he didn't say you can't raise money.
Right.
But he made it pretty clear that nothing's going to happen right this minute.
Mhm. Mhm. I can understand that.
This is Anna. I'd just like to add on to what Maureen was saying and to respond to Judy. Back in 86 or 8, whichever year it was, the fundraising that was done was to cover a specific expense, and I might not have the right number, but it was something I think around 250,000, which is way short of 20 million. It's a huge difference. It was to cover some report or study that had to be done in conjunction with that addition that was put up then, and I know there was a lot of effort in fundraising that went into that.
I don't think it was even that high, Anna, was it? Does anybody remember the figure? It seems to me it wasn't, unless that included the senior center.
I think the townspeople really got behind both projects at once, the senior center and the library, and it was like, you support me, I'll support you. And both referendums passed in the same voting day.
Oh, and I'm sure if it went out to referendum for the library, we wouldn't have an issue.
Right.
There's not going to be a referendum right now.
Just Anna Reynolds, but not anything else. No.
Not at the moment.
Nope.
Not according to. I mean, Keith didn't use the term referendum, but
I will say that our town hall would have been seen by the public of other towns. They cannot say enough about how wonderful it is. They think the gyms and the sports, the area for sports and so forth, is one of the best that they see in the entire area, because it is being used for games. And I've had people comment, and they live in other towns and come here to play their games, which is good. You know, it took long enough to get improvement, but things are moving forward. So I'm just hoping things fall into place. As a sidebar, I would like to say that it is wonderful to hear everyone's voices. It has been so very long since I've been able to participate, and I'm a little hoarse tonight, but that's seasonal allergies. Just hi to everybody. It is so good to hear your voice.
nice to have you with us too, Judy.
Thank you.
This
This
is
is
Diane.
Leanne. Oh, I'm sorry. I have a question that's kind of riding on this, and I get it, Maureen. Believe me, I would love to be able to say, let's write the check and put an addition on the building, but you know, let's all be practical here. But I have a question for Chris and Dave. Looking at it from a dollars and cents perspective, we're talking expansion and renovation. I guess I'm more looking back toward the idea of a future budget. I know in the spring we were asked to give a reduced budget in case taxes weren't collected to the level that we thought with this pandemic. There's so many unknowns in the current situation, whether it's the Anna Reynolds referendum or it's what budgeting is going to be for next year. I wondered what the tax receipts ended up being in October. Are we that far behind?
We were told at the last council meeting that we were on par for taxes being collected.
Oh,
And,
excellent. Oh,
that,
okay.
you know,
Good.
it may not be exactly the amount, but we're fairly where we would be given the collection of taxes.
Oh, that's good news.
So that has not fallen. Just the collection. The weak point is the collection of car taxes, and that's what perennially happens for a variety of different reasons.
Right.
Neil, I just want to make a comment. I think, yeah, what you're referring to, LeeAnn, right? Last year, the town manager asked each town department to program a 20% cut in case,
30.
whatever. But I think it was more in case of we don't receive as much from the state.
Right.
That's what they were looking at.
Well, I also think it was a case of we put everything off till October. There were so many unknowns. There's still so many unknowns with this pandemic and what's going forward. So, I mean, in a perfect world, I'd love to, like I said, write a check and put the addition on and go to referendum with it or what have you. But I think we have to take each, as Maureen said, evaluate, get their evaluation on this report and see where we lay in this whole thing and not necessarily go on the back burner, but play nice with the rest of the town because we're all in this together.
I was just talking about what you brought up in that when the town manager required each town agency to program like say a 30% cut should the worst case scenario happen. And I think he was talking about revenue we wouldn't be receiving from the state in case things were really, really bad. Not just town revenue.
Yeah, who knows where that's at.
Diane?
Counselor Minor also has his hands up.
That's it.
Thank you, Diane. I just didn't want to step over the top of anybody. The crutch of the report that we've been eagerly anticipating is going to primarily focus on the existing site conditions of all our town-owned buildings. I don't believe they're going to even entertain any aspect of expansions. They may say there's a department request or there's a potential need, but I think the main focus is going to be on the existing conditions, what we need to be in terms of focusing on, renovations that may be more dire than other sites. Unfortunately, I think as a whole, we've fallen short historically in town of maintaining our assets, and it's far easier to do an emergency repair of something than it is to forecast and budget and stick to a long range facilities plan or capital improvements plan that has been lacking, as of recent years. So I think it's a combination of a few different things. And Dave, you could weigh in on it, is we've only got so much of a pie. And in that pie is the capital improvements plan. And the capital improvements plan has our debt service built into it. So our long-term debt being the town hall project and the potential Anna Reynolds project, all those will formulate into how much is left of the pie to the remainder of projects. I was able to be involved early on with the renovation committee, my previous term on the council. And the question I've got for you, Diane, or anybody who wants to weigh in on it, is there anything specifically within the buildings themselves that you're not comfortable with in terms of being inferior, be it a roof, be it whatever? I know you've said you've got phase 1 of 2 on your carpet replacement, but is there anything that could potentially be done on a smaller scale that would help you in the interim towards working towards a long-term potential expansion? Anything you can think of?
Well,
I understand we had another leak in the roof. You know, I've been on the board 30 years. It's been leaking 30 years.
May I say something? This is Laurel.
Sure.
I think studying the building, if it's looked at physically, the library's done a pretty good job of maintaining it all along. What that report may not go into is how limiting is the building when it comes to delivering the type of service we want to deliver to the public that many other libraries are able to deliver. Service is limited by the physical building. Even though the building itself is in good shape, it's too small. It's too limited, and it's not, what's the word I want? You can't change the usage of it's not amenable.
Right. So you can't change the programming around really internally to make any changes that would be beneficial. You're kind of stuck with what you've got.
Exactly, and the building is
It
not
is
able
also
to evolve, even though the services have.
It boils down to space.
Yes.
Right. Well, the only other thing I could think of is I know that expansion or space needs study.
So it's not only the space for the programs, it's, you know, if you think of the age and look at the restrooms that we have, the HVAC that's not set up working right, and the staffing is so crowded in that area.
Okay. So I think some of those components will probably be picked up within the report, I would hope. And those would be the type of scenarios you're talking about with having inferior air quality circulation, HVAC system that's not really set up properly. Those types of things I would think would be more likely to be in this, the current study that's coming out. But where I was going with, it might be advantageous for you if your study is relatively up to date, would be to ask to have that part included as part of the overall condition study, if that makes sense.
Well, the report is up to date. I don't know what comes first, the cart or the horse. Do we wait for you as a council or Keith as administration to come to us and say, okay, now we have this draft and this, this report says blah, blah, blah. Now give us your assessment, or do we?
I think my personal opinion, again, Dave, feel free to weigh in, it would be better served to have the report taken in, reviewed, start to go over it and digest it. And once those issues at least are starting to come to light in terms of what is needed, that it might be a better time to maybe piggyback it and say, here's our programming shortfalls, here's our study. But that wouldn't be, at least in my eyes, wouldn't be until after that study has been digested.
Right. And it's essentially one of my main questions to Keith was, what do we do with this report? Do we walk it over and give it to somebody? Is now the time to restart everything? And essentially he said, no.
And I think I would concur with him that he doesn't want to look at this as an overwhelmed situation.
Potentially part of the report.
If I might jump in.
Hey, Chris.
Really depressing meeting for Maureen.
This is Neil. If I could comment, I think Chris is making a very good point. We're talking a little bit apples and oranges here. I think Chris is asking if we have any physical problems with the library as it is right now. Whereas from the library's perspective, our big issue is space. That's not going to happen anytime soon. I think Chris is talking about specific
Well, that's what the house committee does, and we have some small things, but.
Yeah, like.
Can I,
Mechanicals.
Chris, can I ask a question? This is Lisa Masten.
Sure, Lisa.
Well, a couple things that when you said that came to mind is that the skylight has been leaking for years, and it's to the point I think where something has to be done. So, and also another part of the roof, we just had a leak over 2 of our stacks last weekend. So the roof is not in good shape. They did replace part of the roof, but there's a lot of it that's in bad shape. So that was one thing that came to mind. But the other question I had is, when the people came through the building, I walked around with them. How much information were they given about the building? Because it wasn't a scheduled meeting. They just showed up, and I didn't know, I couldn't get the feel as to how much information they had about, the HVAC and things like that, because I took them around, but I didn't, not sure about that.
Right. I think some of it they're going to be able to determine on their own. So they can go look at, let's say the HVAC equipment. They can look at the serial number and model number and decode it to find out what its age is.
Yep.
So they can also, they know based on the data that they've gotten from the tax assessor's office of the size of the building and the layout of the building. So they've got some information. When you're talking specifically about roof leaks and that type of thing, I don't know if they had any detailed information in advance. And I don't know when you did the walkthrough with them, if they looked up the ceiling tile and said, hey, why is this stained? Or,
well,
hey,
I pointed everything out, but I just got the impression that they didn't have a lot of information. So I was concerned about that, because there were, you tried to show them everything, like the good and the bad and the ugly sometimes. And we did go out on the roof, but the HVAC, the thing, it can have old equipment. That one of the challenges has always been is that it's not balanced throughout the whole building. And so I just didn't know if they had that information to make the conclusions that they're making.
I don't believe that they were given anything from any department, for the most part, to put everything on an even scale, that this would be something someone in the town had put an emphasis on to gauge one thing over another.
Right.
That it was for them independently to make an evaluation of all those different things. And as Chris Miners pointed out, they have ways of finding out. This is their job in terms of doing this kind of evaluation, which they have done previously in other places.
Okay.
And I agree while I have the floor for a second here with Chris and what basically he has said in terms of what to do with the committee or the former committee that is still there, as far as I know, that I would keep it. I wouldn't mothball it. I would make certain it's there if there ever is a remote chance to add to it. And I would also advise as well that you find concrete things that are under the threshold value for CIP to put in, such as, and I know it's a small part as opposed to other things, but the carpeting was like, yes, this definitely is something that falls under CIP and it's doable. So if there are other things of that nature that are doable under those criteria, that more than likely would be considered, no matter what the survey happens to be, as opposed to things that are therefore under. And of course, once again, it's the problem of space. And indeed, you have to do a major addition or at least something that costs more than what's under CIP to be included. But it does look like we are not in very good straits in terms of a town to fund many different things. But all I can say, we will see. There are things on the horizon that may come through that may increase the amount of money that the town's collecting in taxes, but none of those things have been validated, nor would they make that much of a difference to say, yes, now the town is in a better shape to consider such things as major additions and changes to buildings in town.
Dave, this is Maureen. I guess this is for Dave and Chris. Once you all have received this report and reviewed, digested, whatever, 5,000 pages is a lot. when would that report, or if, would it be made public?
I think eventually it has to be, but as terms of a timeline, I can't give you a timeline right now at all, especially since you've informed, 5,000 pages and it's a first draft. I'm thinking that perhaps the town manager might, in future drafts, help to formulate that to be in a more palatable way of giving information to the council to determine what needs to be done or not. I know that offhand there's been some discussion about, well, there may be a pecking order, so to speak, in terms of what needs most needed as opposed to something else. But the council itself may see, for personal reasons within the town that's not seen just in the figures, that something else may need to be more pertinent without picking out something that may be true. Like suddenly there's a roof that totally is collapsed or that needs drastic repairs. That might change something in terms of order of where things are. But we're using, whenever we get the survey list, as a template in terms of where we need to go and what we have that we can need to spend in future. And it, of course, it depends on the economy, and it depends on the climate within the town in terms of increasing that town list.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, that's really
Diane?
all I have. Hate to be such a bearer of bad news.
Maureen,
Reality.
Yes?
this is Pam.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody can see the little hand raise thing. I used it, but I just have a question for Chris and Dave. I'm a little more concerned with the reply Maureen got about there is no economic growth happening. Is this all we're going to base on fixing things on? Because I don't know how much more actual room space that Newington has for any more economic growth. So where in the future are we expecting to get the funds to help the library and help whatever's wrong? Because the library, more and more patrons are coming through the doors. I understand we don't have the money for another expansion, and I get that we've gotten ourselves into a corner, but what's the plan going forward for revenue? That's the bigger question here.
I'll take a quick crack. Okay, Dave. Yeah, thank you. I think the biggest thing that we have to look forward to is that we need to reinvent ourselves in terms of our undervalued properties. We have I'm going to call it a fairly sizable inventory of older industrial, older facilities that, as time progresses, I think you're going to see a desire to renovate, restore, redo a property that is completely undervalued. I think that's our biggest hope of keeping pace, is because, as you alluded to, we are about 93% built out. So there's not a lot of room left to go into, native land. And it's going to be a matter of reinventing ourselves with these undervalued properties and trying to encourage, landlords and property owners to reinvest in their properties. Beyond that, the only thing we can do would be to, limit our services, which that's never viewed, as a good thing, or cutting our costs by trying to do things differently in terms of taking our, pie slices and changing the size between shared services is a current discussion that we're having about what we can share between the Board of Education and the town side and other towns. So, that's the only thing we can do, because just as a general rule, you have to prepare for an increase annually in your budget just to keep pace with the, cost of living. That could be, anywhere from 2 to 3%.
All right. I'm sorry. I had to switch to the telephone because my web connection was sketchy at best. So I know that there's been a lot of communication going on here. I think it's important that we continue to think about our renovation and expansion. Yes, it's part of a whole for the town. I think Laurel is right. The library staff and the committees and the board have invested money and tried to keep the library facility itself going well. There are some big items. There's the skylight, there's the HVAC, there's the incredible lack of space for our staff, never mind the expansion space for services and how things have changed. So those are the things that we need to keep to the forefront. But I think most critical going forward is probably communication out to our town and our patrons in terms of how we keep advertising what it is that we are able to do, what we bring to the community, so that when we do reach out to the community to help fund, and it has to be a help fund. I don't see how we're going to get $20 million from book sales and road races and things like that. So I think these are all of the things we need to look at individual fundraising just to keep the board moving forward and to keep some of those smaller expenses under control. But it is something that the library and the services that we provide to the town, we need to be thinking of for that. So if anyone else has a comment that has to be said tonight in terms of the facility study, I would be interested in it, but I think we might be ready to move on to the next topic if you guys are agreeable.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank
all
you,
good
everyone, for your thoughts and participation. From there, we'll move right into fund development with Anna Eddy.
Hi, everyone. Well, fund development, I had said last month I was going to have a report, and right now things are on hold because what I need to do with the help of staff, and they're focused on the reopening of the library to patrons. So anything we were going to do was going to be put off until December. And thank you all. I want to say thank you. Well, it's actually Ready, Set, Go. Thank you all for all of your support for that giveaway program. And hopefully LeeAnn and I can work out an overall report so we can see complete numbers on what the giveaway brought in for next month. That's it.
Great, thanks. Anybody have questions for Anna? No? All right, I would like to thank everyone for their teamwork in getting the Ready, Set, Go up and running and putting it through. I know that the office staff and others wrote thank you notes for folks that donated to the Ready, Set, Go. It was so heartwarming to get the support that we did from our community. And one of the truly nice things is that the library actually received a thank you letter from somebody who had entered the Ready, Set, Go program. And if you'll bear with me, it's very complimentary, and I'd like to share it because these are the reasons that the libraries here and the services go on. It's not just to have a bigger and better building. But this is from Anthony Lettieri, and it's addressed to the Board of Trustees, the Lucy Robbins Wells Library.
Diane?
Dear trustees, yes?
Did you want to address that under old business where Ready, Set, Go is actually at?
I could do that if you want to. If you want to wait.
I just figured we'd go in the order with the items. I wasn't sure if you were still talking on fund development or if we were moving past that all.
I'll wait and do the Ready, Set, Go. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Anna or anything under fund development? No? Nominations?
No report.
No report. Communications, Lisa. Anything at this point, Lisa Jones? Anything at this point or no report?
You.
Yeah. Lisa, any report?
She's just trying to get the volume down so they don't do the reverb. because they're in the same room.
There we go. Thanks for bearing with us. So I'm honored to be part of the whole group and leading the communications committee. I think that my start was working with Anna, and I didn't get a chance to unmute Anna. Such a nice job on the fund development for the Ready, Set, Go, and I know we're going to talk about it, but awesome job, and it was fun to kind of get to know, you know, the ins and outs of the board too, and how you operate with respect to press releases and that sort of thing. So that was where I started from. My plan is really to just start to listen to others and where we think we might have some communication needs. I think that the conversation we just had is ripe for communications out to the public, and love to work with Lisa Masten and the Friends as well, to actually build a communication strategy or plan that we can, based on the goals and that we have for the library. So looking forward to getting started, and anyone that would like to join the communications committee, I'm all in. That's it.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions for Lisa at this point? Okay, again, I think communications is going to be very important in this upcoming year as we try to figure out just how we need to continue to provide services and how that might change our hours or the services offered as we live through the rest of this pandemic. So again, Lisa, thank you for the work that you did over the summer, and also for stepping up for this area. And now we can go to Ready, Set, Go. I don't know, it sounds like between LeeAnn and Anna, we don't have final numbers for it, but we did get an incredible amount of support from folks. So not only some of our runners, but really throughout the community through putting in the flyers with the Lucy to Go pickups and the footnotes. I think the word got out and our patrons stepped up to help support us. So that was very much appreciated. Before I read the letter, does anybody else have comments?
So this is Anna. I think in general, just people want to know how much was taken in, because the treasurer's report only reflected this month. And LeeAnn, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that collectively between the online fundraising part and the mail-in part, I think we took in somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. Is LeeAnn there? Can she confirm that?
I'm just doing a quick in my head here. We had 2666, and we got another 2107, and we're expecting about another 328. So that puts us close to just around 5, little over 5. The only expenses we had really were the mailing expenses. For the, getting the prizes delivered.
Prizes, yeah.
And that was like $90.
Yeah, and then if you theoretically, if you add in the $570 that the runners had pre-registered earlier on, I know it was collected, in the last fiscal period, but I mean, if you added it into the giveaway, it is, like 5,500.
Right, but for accounting purposes, I have to leave it in the race revenue for 2020, 5K 2020 race that didn't happen because it was reported in our last fiscal year.
I did just remember one thing as I closed out on fund development, if I can just add it in. Sorry, Gail, you can add it back up in fund development. We did receive a check recently. It was basically a memorial check, and was in the amount of $5,000, and a Newington woman had made it in, had sent it in memory of her parents. And as I always keep saying, we just never know when someone is going to think of the library. We just have to keep planting the seed that we have that legacy society out there, and that they can contribute to the library at any time. And that's it.
Okay. All right, so now I'd like to read that letter from Anthony Lettieri, who is a patron of our library and somebody who participated in the Ready, Set, Go. And I'll fast forward a little bit, but it was, Dear Trustees, thank you for the prize from your Ready, Set, Go giveaway fundraiser. It is a pleasant surprise. I look forward to contributing to more of the library fundraisers. Moreover, since I have come to live in this area since August of 1966, I have had free access to the library's excellent holdings, and I have enjoyed years of the library staff's expert assistance and cordial relationships. This, to me, is the prize of prizes.
Wow.
Thank you, dear trustees, for your freely offered, diligent, and inventive support of the Lucy Robbins Wells Library. May you all continue to enjoy good health. Sincerely, Tony Lettieri. That's wonderful. He writes a nice letter, and it's just so nice and heartwarming to hear that sentiment. But these are the folks that we're trying to expand the library for and continue to provide services and stay relevant in this time frame. So very nice.
You want to be on the board?
It's very nice to take time to write that letter.
Yeah, that was
And
lovely.
I have his address, so we probably will reach out to him. So that's nice. And in terms of the Ready, Set, Go, I think that did save us in terms of our running expenses for the library. It truly helped us. It was an inventive idea on how to turn a canceled race into something else. We had collected all the prizes, and we had the sponsor monies, and we really were able to continue to advertise the sponsors. I think Lisa did an excellent job when Lisa and Karen were doing the drawing that's up on YouTube of calling out the sponsors and again, letting them know how much we appreciate the support that the town and everyone has given to us. So again, very important. If you have an idea, if it's different, let's talk about it. Let's kick it around, whether it's an email or, in some meetings or call a couple of people. One idea may not be the idea, but it might generate the ideas that we can use going forward. So don't hold back.
Diane?
Yes.
I don't know how, I'm not sure how to stop my phone call. Do I just end it? Because I think it's time for me to say goodnight.
Okay, yeah, if you just simply hang up, you'll be off. And I'm so glad you were able to join with us to this
it's
point.
wonderful.
Thank you.
It really is wonderful. Okay, good night to everyone, and take care, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Judy. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, if no one else has anything to say about the Ready, Set, Go giveaway program, I'll go on to the open board positions. I just want to remind folks that we have 1 corporate and 2 Republican positions open on the board. There is someone who has applied to the Republican Town Committee to be considered for a board position, and I know that she got a message back from the mayor stating that they would be looking into these board appointments, and she'd be notified by them.
Diane?
Miss Livingston was appointed.
Oh, she was appointed.
I was just going to mention that the last council meeting, she was appointed.
Great.
So you have 1 less open position.
Okay, so we have 1 corporate and 1 Republican. Thank you, Dave. I wasn't sure on the timing of that, so. All right.
Leanne?
So we'll reach out to her and make sure she gets acquainted with the library from this side as that goes through.
Diane, Councilor Minor still has his hand raised. I'm not sure if he has a question or if it was from before.
No, I'll lower it now. Didn't even know it was up.
That's okay. I just wanted to check.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts about board?
This is Gail. I just want to know, did you say Miss Livingston? Do we have her exact name for the minutes?
The first name is Beth.
Yeah, she's Elizabeth Livingston. She lives on Main Street.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's not official until she swears in, and then I would assume that she would be at our next meeting in November. So we'll try to reach out to her and get that information. Okay. Again, if you have thoughts of someone, if you would reach out to Laurel as head of PEP, if it's somebody for corporate, and even, we still have one Republican town committee person, so if they are interested, if they have questions, we're happy to speak with them and encourage them to follow through on that interest. Any questions? No? Okay, next up would be the Town of Newington 150th anniversary. I don't know if anything's been publicized or going forward with that.
Well, the only thing I have is to piggyback on the Afghans that have been a running saga from the Newington Education Foundation. I just want to let you know that I spoke to the Newington Education Foundation's attorney. He is doing everything pro bono for them, so that's one of the reasons this is taking so long. But I did express, he's a Newington resident and he's a big supporter of the library, and I said that in these times of socially distanced fundraising and trying to come up with new concepts, it would be ideal if we could get that design rights pinned down, because that's something we could sell and not have to be, So he said that he would start working on it. I spoke to him 2 weeks ago and he said that he would work on it, realizing that this would be helpful to not only the Education Foundation to close out their records, but to us as to going forward, because then we then could change with the design company, at least the name on it. And if we wanted to work on changing the design, we could do that in the future. So I'm working on it.
Super, thank you.
I have one other thing for the library.
I'm sorry?
Diane?
Yes.
Or LeeAnn?
Yes.
My wife is on the 150th anniversary committee, and I was just asking her while you were reporting. Their calendar is gone to print for the 150th. It'll be $15, and it's a 12-month calendar, and I guess it's yet to be determined how they're going to go about getting people to apply for it. Is there anything else, Jarlin?
Yeah, if you're thinking of doing anything, I find there's so many people that don't understand the history of Newington.
Oh, okay.
So if they want to focus on that.
And she said they're trying to work on things about the history of Newington because people don't know about it, but that's for the committee to find out. It's nothing to report specifically in terms of the library, except maybe at some point getting the library involved with their history.
We have an excellent
historical house tour.
Also, they're doing a historical house tour on a drive-by basis.
Super.
Okay, that's it. That's one person to another.
Nice to have family connections in the know. So thank you both. All right, new business. I didn't have anything listed here. Does anyone have new business they want to bring up? I'm going to take that as a no. Public participation. I don't think we had anybody from the public join us. James, can you tell if anybody else joined?
Nobody has joined us.
Okay, great. Well then, it's time for adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Maureen. May I have a second?
I'll second.
No. Need a name for Gail.
Chris, whoever.
One at a time.
I think that was Chris that I heard.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time tonight. Again, a couple of critical things going forward, I think, will be the fund development and trying to figure out where we are with the expansion and the necessary communications out there. So thank you. Look to the committees. I'm sure the chairs will be calling some meetings and working towards some of those goals for us this upcoming year. I think that's it.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care, all.
Good night.
Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
I'll see you all down the road.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.